Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Grip Locked preview for the United States Women's Disc Golf Championship out in Wisconsin. The next major is here. There will be another major winner crowned. For the women, this is actually an interesting stretch because over the next month and a half, they're going to be faced with 3 majors.
All the rest of them.
So if you get hot now, you could either be a Grand Slam winner if Missy's able to take down the next 3, or you could be looking at 3 majors and have a bad rest of the season because they're all within a month.
It is kind of a bummer. I didn't really think about it. And I know they care about throw pink, and we always consider that sort of a major, but it's not. And when we count them up, it's not one. And so I feel like for the men's players, you always can bank on whatever happens in the middle of the season, there's always that one major that you can turn things around, especially if you're a player who's expected to have a chance to win. You can have a bad season and be but all it takes is one major championship. But for the women, you're right. By the end of July, for those top players, it's well, the goal now is to collect some more Pro Tours and maybe win the big paycheck for the finale. But other than that, it's it's gonna be hard not to lose a little focus.
If you go cold here, you could just your major winning season could be over.
It's an important period of time.
You get through July and be well, crap. Looks like I didn't get any majors this year.
Yeah, and then that accent as well.
Yep. We're heading out to Rolling Ridge and Silver Creek Park. Both courses should be relatively scoreable from what I can see. I'm looking at the caddy book. I'm looking at some old Silver Cup footage, and I saw the front 9 of Jomez practice round have been posted. So looking at those, I don't really see a reason that the top women can't be going 5 to 10 under par at these courses. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to average out across the, but I think the hot round could come in around there. They both have an open woodsy feel is what I'm calling it, where there is some shot shaping that has to happen. There are a few woods holes, but there's also some of those holes where you're in the open, but the woods are present. They're out there. There's some OB to be had out there as well.
Yeah.
So
I noticed that not super long par 4s is a theme.
Very big theme.
Especially at Rolling Ridge, which I'd like to submit right now that's one of the best course names I've ever heard. Rolling Ridge is electric. But I think that was my first tip off that this is going to be friendly for a lot of scoring. I also think it's interesting. I believe I saw they're going 2-2.
2-2.
So I think that'll be interesting just because we're going to see a theme, possibly a rise in the first course that could change drastically.
I think both courses play pretty similarly.
It's something because Silver Creek, they're having to stretch that property because it doesn't lay out long at all in its normal layouts. From what I saw, they had to really make
it's called Super Silver,
which two good punches there. So I think that'll be interesting to see how that one plays out, but. Always interesting when you're going 2-2. We could see 2 very different tournaments. I don't expect that from FPO, especially with these courses, because they don't appear to be playing that much different. But you never know. Some players just certain courses and certain holes maybe give them trouble, and then we could see things really flip after day 2.
Yeah, I was looking at last year's Silver Cup. They played this USWDGC layout for FPO, and it seemed that where ratings were falling then, which obviously it's all based on the field, so that could be nothing for this tournament. It seems that around 5 under would have been 1,000 rated, somewhere in that range. So
that's not bad.
You expect ratings to get
5 under rated 1,000 at which?
This is at Silver Cup last year with a very weak field. You wouldn't know any names from the field, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's probably going to be closer to 980, 990 in this field, which means that 6 under, 7 under at Super Silver should be kind of that 1,000 rated, meaning 10's out there from how I kind of interpret things, because 10 would probably get you to that 1020, which tends to be more of a ceiling. So that's where I'm kind of assuming the scoring is going to fall, is in that 3 to 10 under, that range. So I'm assuming... This is a lot of assumption because we don't have much history at these courses. I'm assuming somewhere around 18 to 20 under to be the winning score. But it's very hard to know what we're going into. Yeah. I will say, looking at it, there is not really any singular player that I'm these courses really favor them, because it doesn't have the long distance that brings in the Ella and Holland over the field narrative. It doesn't have the super tight woods that might take those players out. It has just everyone's going to be able to play well here. Everyone's going to be able to attack here. So I think the usual suspects should be the usual suspects still. I don't think it's going to be bringing the whole field in very much.
Totally.
But it should create for an interesting weekend because I do think that everyone's going to be able to play well out here. So let's start looking at some storylines. We'll start off with the players that have a shot at their first major victory this weekend. And I think the first on the list here, Holland Handley.
Yeah.
She's not finished outside the top 5 this season yet. When firing on all cylinders, she seems very hard to beat and very impressive. As I mentioned, this course isn't an open bomber golf course style of course that we typically think of that gives her the biggest advantage over the field, but she's performed fine everywhere this season, and she's had a chance to win everywhere. So I also don't think this is the type of course that we're thinking takes her out. So what do you think Holland needs to focus on this weekend to be crowned a major champion?
Putting, to be honest. I think her distance will give her an advantage just because I think she'll have less in to the par 4s especially, and I think that she'll have her opportunities to score. It's just going to be, can you make the putts? I mean, she struggled with the putter a good bit last weekend, and I think that that's just going to be always her key to victory. And so nothing changes here. It's going to be, if she's putting well, I think she has a great chance to win a major. Obviously, she's been very good this year. I think that's really the only thing that separates her from finishing around 4th or 5th and winning tournaments. So it's definitely going to be the putt.
I think my key for her is going to be staying cool under pressure because
also
in order
true.
to win, she's going to have to defend a lead or take a lead. I think, honestly, best case scenario for her is she takes the lead on hole 17 or 18 of the final round. Because while she's become a more proven winner, we have still seen flashes of really nervous with a lead.
Sure.
I forget I think it was Kansas City, wide open, if I'm remembering this year correctly, where she had a 3 or 4 stroke lead, and she was freaking out. Like, she was super nervous, and it's like, you're on 18 with a 3-stroke lead. What are you nervous for? So we've still seen glimpses of that. And when the pressure ramps up more, now we're back on a stage she's unproven on, right, with a major, and that's going to be in her head. And so I think, to me, that's almost the bigger key is, yes, she has to putt to get herself in contention, but if we're assuming she's in contention in the final round, I think it's going to be all between the ears. I think it's, can she keep her cool, especially if you have a player like Kristin or Silva or Missy pushing her. Will she be able to hold it together down the stretch? I think that's going to be a big key for Holland here. Now, a player that has proven she can hold it together down the stretch in a lot of cases, but not yet on a major stage, is Silva Saarinen. She's coming off back-to-back wins, seems to have her game clicking on pretty much all cylinders. Again, this course doesn't seem to have that crazy long distance that sometimes might take Silva out. She has plenty of distance to attack this course. According to Brody, she has too much distance to be attacking this course, to be honest with you, farthest player on tour.
True.
So from what I'm seeing, she's yet to win a Pro Tour major event, though, that's across 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Not a huge trend because she doesn't have that much data, but that is a point where I believe she has a bunch of 4th places and 1 second place, so she can get in contention, but she hasn't won one across 4 rounds. What do you think she needs to do to make that happen this weekend?
I think she just needs to play her game. I mean, she's got back-to-back wins right now. She's playing very good, and I think that, her key is really just putting together 4 solid rounds. I don't think you have to light the world on fire in FPO to win this tournament. The key is just avoiding a big slip-up. I think a lot of players are going to be prone to that. So I think if Silva can play 4 consistent rounds of her brand of golf, that's going to be good enough because I think her game's in the best shape right now.
Yeah, I think your putter's not going to disappear overnight, right? Yes, there could be mental lapses in the final round. We've seen Silva susceptible to that early in the season, but modern Silva right now, she's been stone cold. So I don't see that all of a sudden going away. There could be a similar talk of what with Holland, where maybe with a major pressure, maybe we see glimpses of that MCO. But I think it's the opposite for Silva, where her key is the drive and giving herself enough looks. Because even in the high-pressure moments, her putt's been solid. It's just, can she put herself in enough positions for that to matter? Because she's going to convert on Circle 2 and Circle 1. Statistically, she is second in both of those categories. So overall, she's the best putter on tour this year. If you combine them both, she's the best there. So it's just, can she make that worth it? Can she put herself in enough positions where she is making those putts? Because what we've seen as of the last 2 weeks is, even in clutch moments, her putt's dialed. Even if she misses an important birdie putt, she's draining the par putt. And that's something that we haven't seen a lot of times from other players. So for Silva, I think she's almost, I think Moses on debate night comped her to Owen Scoggins,
Yeah.
which I don't agree with the full comp, but from this standpoint, I do agree where like she is a specialist when it comes to backhand, and when circle 2, circle 1, she's deadly. But what Owen's problem always was, and I think what Silva's could be, is can you put yourself in position enough times for that deadliness to matter? So I think that's kind of what Silva has to focus on this week, is just throwing the disc well, getting herself into the landing zones, attacking when she can attack, and then, rely on your putt.
Yeah.
So next we have a player who's already notched a major this season and is looking to get a second here, Missy Ganon. These courses seem to be a completely fine fit for her game. She started off the season a little bit slow. That was a talking point early in the year. She's had a really good stretch. Up until last week, she came in 8th at Preserve, which is a little bit of a blip on her radar. She was not in contention. Well, she was on lead card, but then she wasn't in contention down the stretch. Do you think that's just a fluke, or is there something bigger going on? Is she still, someone who's one of your favorites coming into this week?
Yeah, no, I still like her at this event. I think slow start to the season's fair, and I think last weekend was just one bad round. You obviously have to put 4 good ones together to win this tournament, but she's a proven winner in the major stage. I don't think the pressure is going to get to her nearly as – the amount of time she wins with big money on the line, there's obviously she can handle a little bit of pressure, so I do think that Missy is going to be a very dangerous competitor, and if she can stay at the top of the leaderboard and not get kind of like drowned into that mix in the middle where I think sometimes she just kind of falls off the ledge a little. If she can stay up towards the top and be there on the final day, it's definitely a player you have to worry about.
Yeah, I think that the key for Missy is going to be staying within reach.
Yeah.
Because I think that the pressure's not going to get to her. Big money Missy, she has officially earned that title at this point. It's not just like, oh, it's a fluke. She won the big money a few times. Like, no, it's almost where maybe when there's the more money on the line and there is that pressure, she just steps her game up.
Hey, Isaac wins all the majors.
But I do think that it's something where Missy doesn't feel like a player that if she's back 6 going into the final round, she's going to rally and take it.
She might be there waiting for you.
Yeah.
If the lead falters. I think that's definitely something.
So I think that it's going to be something where these first 2 or 3 rounds, Missy's going to need to get out the gates. Not hot. She doesn't have to have the lead, but she needs to be smelling it.
Sure,
she needs to be right within the mix, on lead card, maybe on chase card, depending on how condensed everything is, where she needs to be within 3 or 4 going into the final round, and then she's a huge threat. Ideally, I think where Missy plays the best is actually from the lead. I think if Missy can get herself the lead, get a 3 or 4 stroke lead going into the final round, then a lot of times it's just like you're not going to do anything. But she's one of the players that she has done it across 4 rounds multiple times. She has done it on weird stages with the Tour Championship. She's a player where when you add in these rounds, I think Missy's consistency brings her in where she might not have the super hot round, but she definitely also a lot of times doesn't have the super cold round, which some of the players that have the really hot ones also have the cold ones. So her consistency here, I think, could definitely make her a big threat coming into this weekend. A player that I think is kind of on the opposite spectrum, where a lot of times they do have the really hot round potential and really cold round potential, is Eveliina Salonen. She's a multiple-time major champion. She's been absent a ton of this season, being added back into the field this weekend. Do you have any type of performance expectation for her, or what? Where is our mind at with Eveliina?
I would say the same old, same old. I don't like. I wouldn't be shocked if it would be kind of on brand for her to just come out of nowhere and win this thing. But I'd say my expectations are pretty low, just because there has to be a little bit of rust there, and the putting is always like, obviously she won a world title last year. She won a Champions Cup last year. But I think this year has been kind of a weird season. Didn't have a great start. There's been the absence from Tour. So I'm not expecting anything crazy. It's not going to shock me to see her jump up the leaderboard, but I would be pretty surprised if she was able to win.
I think it comes down to the same thing it always comes down to for Eveliina, which is, can she get the disc in the basket?
Oh, right.
Right. And at the end of the day, like, she's going to throw the disc well enough to give herself looks. That's her brand of golf.
And she has to have a lead. Like, you can't, like, we saw it happen last year a few times. Like, you have to win this tournament by 2 or 3, because if you have a putt from 15 feet to win this tournament, you're probably going to miss it.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like Eveliina has to count on, I have to get out to a lead that I can just, like, bank on, basically.
Yeah, I have to not be able to 3-putt from 20 feet and still win. And it's crazy that's where it is, but that's where it is. But with that being said, it is still possible because she's done it before.
Certainly.
By golly, she'll do it again. I mean, I still remember.
She throws it really well.
One of the most scared I've ever seen someone was when she missed that putt at Worlds.
Yeah.
Or it might have been the layup, and it rolled to like 10 feet or 5 feet. And she looked like, I think I might miss this and go to a playoff.
Yeah.
And that's a look inside her mind where she doesn't have that much confidence. So I think the Russ will do one of two things. Sometimes taking that much time off from playing competitive disc golf can just out of nowhere make you forget a lot
maybe.
and be the spark that you need where the putter's all of a sudden falling. Or the rust is going to be evident, and whatever practice she was doing that was leading to the putting might actually get worse. She is a very big wild card here, where like
definitely the biggest wild card.
Very much could be in contention, could be pushing the lead, could win this weekend. Also, could never be seen on coverage, could be in 10th place, and we have no idea. So I think Eveliina Salonen is one of the biggest wild cards. Another wild card, Paige Pierce. It's been a while since she's been, really in the major conversation beyond like, can she take the title? Because I think she's still one win away from the all-time major title. I think she has it for FPO, but I think she's still chasing Ken Climo, and that's always kind of been the conversation, but it's always been like, no, this isn't her weekend. This year, in contention a lot more. Obviously, missed preserve for Bonnaroo. That could have been a big thing. That could have been one of her big opportunities. These courses, I think, are going to fit her completely fine. What do you think? Do you think this is a good chance for Paige to get back in the major winning circle?
I don't see it. I mean, I don't think – I think that the courses with a little more open air were suiting her a bit more. I just like – I wouldn't be surprised to see like maybe after 1 or 2 rounds her name still be up there. But by the time we get to crunch time in that 4th round, I will imagine she's fallen off at that point. I just don't think the consistency is there. I would be very surprised to see her – like late in the tournament, still having a chance to win.
I agree with your gut feeling. I hope to see it because I think it would be electric.
Very entertaining.
I'd be curious. Obviously, Paige is a proven winner on tour and especially at the majors. But on the major stage,
how much time has to pass though? Like
she hasn't done it in a while.
Well,
so that's where I'm wondering: is that pressure going to build back up? Similar to if Ricky Wysocki got into contention at a major.
Exactly.
How much of the past performance where it's like, oh, I've done this so much before? Because her last major was the European Open in 2022. She won 2 majors in 2022. So we're looking at 3 years since her last major win. Much different than Ricky's 8 years. But still, when that much time has passed, the field to a certain extent has passed you on. You've only won 3 times since then. How much of pressure is going to build up if you get back into the major circle where this win means a lot to Paige because it almost would be like a reemergence of, no, I'm still one of the top players brand.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see. I hope we get to see it where I hope she's in contention, maybe even in the lead going into the final round or close, so we can just see, does it turn Paige into what she used to be, where it's like final round, she's chasing you down, you're not catching her? Or do we see her falter a little bit? I think it'd be a very interesting storyline, but I'm not expecting it either.
No.
I would love to see it. I'm not expecting it.
Would love to.
Last but not least, probably the player that everyone's expecting here, Kristen Lott. She's looking to continue her top 2 streak for the season so far. She has not come outside the top 2.
Fun stuff.
And take down her first major of the year this year as she continues to be the person to beat in FPO. With her back-to-back losses to Silva, do you think there's anything she needs to do differently this weekend or keep playing the same brand of golf and it's going to work eventually?
Eliminate the dumb mistakes. I think there's just been some unforced errors that just have kind of piled up. Make some more putts. And I think playing from the front is going to be big for her. I think in these major championships in particular, sometimes she digs herself a hole that she just can't quite get out of. We saw that at the World Championships last year. So I think just getting off to a positive start, playing from the front of the pack, if she can do that, it's very intimidating to try and chase her down. And I think that's going to weigh on a lot of other players early, whereas if certain other names get up there, you're not quite as worried about it. So I think that's going to be big for her, is getting off to a good start and at least staying within 3-4 shots of the lead for this entire tournament, rather than coming out of round 2 being down 8, being like, all right, we got to get out of this.
Yeah. Which if there's anyone that could do it, it's going to be Kristen.
Right.
I do think at the end of the day, when there is 4 rounds, Kristen is the most consistent player in FPO. Now, this year, the 4-round events, which was the Open at Austin, she came in second. Champions Cup, she came in second. 1 to Holland, 1 to Missy. But Missy, Open at Austin, came in 23rd. Holland, Champions Cup, came in 5th. So even at that, when you're looking at the 2 4-round events, because Northwest Championship she wasn't present at, but even when you're looking at the 4-round events, Kristen's the most consistent at them. Yeah. Still. She hasn't won one yet this year, but if you look historically over the past 2 to 3 years, when you have 4 rounds, if you bet your money on Kristen, you're going to win a lot more than you're going to lose, and I don't think that changes this year. It's just she is the most consistent player. When you give the most consistent player enough rounds, they will eventually win. there's just so many players that could win this weekend that I think that's really going to stand in her way. What we have seen is there has been some crucial putts missed over the last 2 weeks in her losses to Silva. There's been some very unforced errors, such as the OB shot on hole 10 last weekend at the Preserve. Those things she is going to have to tighten up, but I think across 4 rounds it's a little bit easier to hide those than across 3 rounds. Certainly. So it matters a lot as to when those moments happen, because what we've been seeing is they've been in crucial moments. You can't really hide it if it happens in the 4th round when you need it to not. But if she slips up a little bit in the first 1 or 2 rounds, she finds herself 3 or 4 or 5 back, she's going to be completely fine, I think. But you're right. If she gets into this position she's gotten into before, where she's 8 shots back, and now she has to rely on the people ahead of her giving her strokes, I don't think that's where she wants to be.
She needs players to feel her presence.
Yeah, she needs to be. It's similar to back in the day, it felt like this for Paul, where if Paul could get into that 4th spot on lead card where players could see him chasing them, he always had a shot. I think Kristin's in a similar boat, where if she is on your card in the final day, she has a shot because you're going to feel her presence. That's what we saw Paul chase down Ricky at the European Open in historic fashion years and years ago. And I think a lot of it was because he was on Ricky's card, and Ricky could just watch stroke after stroke after stroke get chipped away, and all of a sudden that really big, comfy lead is narrowed down and gets a little tighter, a little tighter. I think that's where Kristin has to be. But it also wouldn't surprise me if she's sick of the Silva narrative after 2 weeks of hearing it, comes out firing on all cylinders, and next thing you know, she's up by 5 or 6 going into the final round. So any other players on your radar going into this weekend?
Not really. I mean, as far as some of the players we haven't discussed, you've got Owen Scoggins, of course, just a player who hasn't had a lot of hype this year at all. Could be a breakout event for her. Valerie Mandujano coming off of a really hot round in the last tournament. These U.S. women's can be a little bit weird, so, maybe somebody like her, maybe somebody like Haley King gets more into the mix, but I would be astounded if the winner doesn't come off of the names that we just listed, and really specifically if the winner isn't Kristin, Silva, Holyn, or Missy.
Yeah, and I fully agree. I think that you could see a Cadence Burge or a Valerie Mandujano.
Cadence is one to watch.
I think you could see them get in contention. I could see the lead being with one of them or a Kat Mertsch after the first 1 or 2 rounds. But I do think when the meat and potatoes of this event hits, when round 4 comes, because that's what Cadence had a good shot at winning the Preserve, but she started the final round so slow that by the time she did start scoring, it didn't matter anymore. And I think that just speaks to mental fortitude, where she's still looking for that win, and there's just a lot of pressure to do that.
It's tough to grab your first win in a major.
And so I think, the first one in the major I don't really see happening for Cadence, but I do think she's a player where she could get in the lead, and we've talked about it before on Twitter, and I think it always kind of rubs people the wrong way. I think that this might be a situation where we'll have a lead after round 1, but where's the true lead? And the true lead's going to be the players we just talked about. Where's Holyn, Missy, Silva, Kristin? Where are they at? The best of them, in my opinion, will be the true lead after 2 rounds. Not to say no one else could win, but I think rounds 3 and 4 is when this event really starts. So if a player can hold on into round 3 and 4, now we're talking. But after 2 rounds, it won't surprise me to see.
Especially going to a completely different course for the last 2.
Yeah, after 2 rounds, it won't surprise me to see some type of name that's unexpected up there. I just don't expect them to hold on. I think that most likely the winner's coming from Holyn, Silva, Missy, or Kristin. That's where I'm expecting. So let's head into our predictions. Obviously, for a major, points are doubled. We're only picking for FPO this week, meaning there's no Dark Horse or MPO picks and no Pick'em against Tour Life. So heading into this week, though, Trevor gained a lot of points on me in the Preserve. I mean, not a ton, but you gained 4 total on me because you got the Dark Horse, you had Silva in your top 3, and you had AB in your top 3.
Yeah.
So Trevor's at 42 points. I'm at 45 points coming into this week. So pretty much this week could be a big swing. I'll start it off. FPO, I'm taking Missy Ganon in 3rd. I really like her at these courses, but so I won her in my top 3. I'm taking Silva Saarinen in 2nd. She's been super consistent as of late. I don't see this hot streak all of a sudden going away, but across 4 rounds, I am taking Kristin Lott to take this thing down.
Yeah, not much difference.
Oh, no.
I'm surprised. I took Missy in 3rd as well. I didn't think you would take Missy in 3rd, but I flip-flopped. I have Kristin in 2nd.
You have Silva winning.
I think Silva's going to continue the win streak.
All right, you think 3 in a row coming for Silva.
The putter is a real thing, and Kristin's putter, I don't really trust it as much these days. So
we'll see what happens. Be sure to tune in on the Disc Golf Network or watch all the coverage going down. I believe it'll be on Jomez, but regardless, we'll tell you all the storylines and everything that happens Monday on Grip Locked. We'll see you then.